What's up, my comic comrades? Today we're continuing our complete origins series for the Absolute universe with Absolute Wally West Flash. We did cover the first issue when it dropped back in March, but his full origin was revealed across the first 6 issues of the series, and this video will give you the whole story in one go. Also, let us know where Absolute Flash lands on your list of favorite Absolute universe characters so far. Anyway, let's dive into Absolute Flash's origin with issue 1. Alright, so the issue starts off with Wally West having run to the desert and just stopped saying, "What have I done? This is all so messed up. I've ruined everything. I can't go back. Have to keep going. Keep running." When he finds out, he's utterly going to kill me. But what does it matter now? Everything is messed up. Everything is pointless now. I messed up so bad. As we turn the page and see Wally with lightning around him with Speed Force images of someone in pain behind him saying, "No, no, no," while he's holding his head, freaking out, continuing to say, "It's all going too fast. Just need to breathe. Wally, just like she taught you, breathe. Slow it down." The comic then brings us to 2 days ago as we see Wally walking on train tracks saying, "Do you know where you are? Do you know who you are? You're Wally West. You're 15 years old and you're completely and totally alone. I knew it was only a matter of time. Things had been okay for a while, but I could feel it coming on again. It always starts in my stomach, like this terrible low-level uneasy feeling that begins to spread. And then I know it's starting again. The racing thoughts, obsessive overthinking. She used to catch it early. She could make me relax, help me calm down, but she's gone. It's just me now. I don't need anyone else anyway. In the end, we're all alone. Other people just mess everything up. It's just me. I have control. Total control." He then finally makes his way to a military base where the guards greet him saying, "This is a restricted area." He says, "Yeah, I have my pass here somewhere." One of the guards say, "You know you're not supposed to be out this late, kid. Your dad catches you, he'll have a fit." A voice from behind him then says, "At ease, I can escort the prisoner from here. Cut the kid some slack, Sergeant. We were all young once, weren't we?" As Wally says, "Thanks, Dr. Allen," telling us this is Barry Allen. Barry tells Wally, "I keep telling you, Barry, please. So was it worth it, staying out past curfew? Get into any trouble?" Wally answers, "Not really, nothing to do around here anyway." Barry responds, "Yeah, no one to do it with, huh? But I guess you must be used to that by now. You and your dad were from Fort McNeil in Texas before transferring here, huh?" Wally says, "Yeah, in Iowa before that." Barry responds, "Life as an army brat. Must be hard to make friends," telling us that Barry is a scientist at this military base and that Wally's father also works in the military, which is why he lives at this base. Anyway, once Barry walks Wally home and Wally is about to go inside, Barry feels bad for him and is like, "Hey Wally, wanna see something cool?" We then see that he takes Wally to his lab and asks, "So your dad tell you anything about what we're doing here at Fort Fox?" Wally answers, "No, not really, just research stuff. He and I don't talk about his work very much." Barry asks, "What do you two talk about?" Wally responds, "Honestly, not much. Since my mom died, he and I don't really have much in common." With Barry saying, "Yeah, me and my old man too," as he opens one of the lab doors. Wally says, "Whoa," with Barry telling him, "Welcome to Project Olympus," as Wally sees a bunch of monkeys in glass orb containments. Wally asks, "What exactly are you guys doing here?" Barry tells him Project Olympus is, well, I can't tell you everything, but we're working on the very razor's edge of physics and biology. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's the military, so the mandate is obviously weapons development, but that's only the beginning. Where we can go from here there is, well, we're breaking new ground every day." Barry then starts to tell Wally, "Look, I'm glad I ran into you. Like I said, I read your file. You're a smart kid. Too smart to be stuck sitting around the barracks and going to that embarrassment they call a school. Maybe you could work part-time with me down here once in a while." But Wally, who has already started to walk away, stops and says, I mean, that would be awesome, but my dad would never let me. Besides, isn't this all like super classified?" Barry responds, "I can pull some strings and I could talk to your dad too. I'm sure once I explain, he'll understand." But then a voice says, "No, I won't," as we see Wally's dad standing behind him. Wally says, "Dad, Dr. Allen was just," but his dad interrupts by saying, "The hell are you doing down here? And why aren't you in bed? They called me and told me they caught you sneaking back in." Wally's all like, "I wasn't sneaking in. I just went for a walk in town and lost track of time." His dad's like, "Sure, you're running around out there doing God knows what with your friends." And Wally's all like, "What friends? There's no one here for me, Dad." At this point, Barry interjects saying, "Rudy, I was just showing Wally around. Thought he might get a kick out of some of the stuff." But Rudy isn't having it and tells him, "It's Colonel West, and you know damn well civilians are not permitted down here, Alan." Barry says, "Take it easy, Colonel. Can't you see the kid is stuck here, bored out of his mind? Come on, have some compassion." But Rudy says, "Mind your own damn business. You're lucky I don't report this," followed by sending Wally back to his house. After Wally's dad kicked him out of the lab, the comic then returns us back to the present and the moment where the book started, with Wally in the desert sitting on a rock saying to himself, "Should have never gone with Barry. Should have never stayed with my dad. Should have just run when I had the chance. Never looked back. Just be on my own where I can't hurt anyone." And as Wally is sitting on a rock, he sees some sort of vehicle driving towards him extremely fast as it launches a projectile towards him. He then runs into a nearby cave as we see the people in this futuristic vehicle are this universe's rogues consisting of Captain Cold, Boomerang, Trickster, and Golden Glider. Boomerang says, "Positive ID ID, Wallace West. Do I have permission to attack? Captain Cold responds, negative. Return to unit. Boomerang responds, I could have taken him out. Saved us a lot of trouble. So what will it be then, Captain? He responds, Jesse, Lisa, split up and flank him. Harkness, you and I are going head on. We then see Wally running in the cave with his powers, freaking out, saying, this is insane. Did Dad send them after me? How could he do that? The comic then brings us to one day ago, where we see Wally playing the bass in his room. His dad comes in saying, Wally, you okay? He replies, I'm fine. His dad then starts apologizing, saying, look, I just wanted to talk about last night. Wally says, it's fine. I shouldn't have stayed out. But his dad says, it's not just that. It's what you saw in the mountain. He asks, what did I see? His dad responds, the work they're doing here, it's dangerous, Wally, and I need to be here, but I also need to keep you safe. Wally gets up saying, are you serious? You dragged me across the country again because you need to be here? But what about me, Dad? His dad just looks down saying, this is my job, son. Wally tells him, what am I supposed to do? Just sit in my room and wait until you get some new orders and we move again? At least Barry showed some interest in me, saw some potential in me. His dad then says, Barry, you're not allowed to talk to him again. You understand me? Wally then walks out saying, yes, sir, sarcastically. But as he says, yes, sir, and leaves the house, where does he go? To see Barry. He then finds Barry in the lab in some sort of machine that's in a glass orb thing with energy all around. Wally in shock just stares with Barry seeing Wally in the lab saying, get away, son, go, run, as energy starts hitting Wally. Then the comic brings us back to now, where we see Wally in the cave continuing to run from the rogues, with Captain Cold saying, Harkness, can you flush him out? He replies, on it, as usual. Boomerang and I will do everything. As we learn, Harkness refers to his Boomerang by name. Trickster then says, please stop referring to that thing as if it's a person digger. It's creepy enough as it is. He replies, you're calling me creepy? How about some self-awareness there, Jesse? Captain Cold then says, quiet both of you. The kid is close, as he holds up his cold gun. We then see Wally continuing to run in the cave as he reminisces about what happened that day he went to the lab and saw Barry in that mysterious machine, as lightning surges all around him. Wally's captions say, calm down, breathe, Wally, just breathe. No, you've messed everything up. This is all your fault, Wally. You can run all you want. It will never be far enough. You know what you did. And on the next page, we see that somehow Wally killed Barry, as we see his corpse lying there with the caption from Wally even saying, you did this, Wally. You killed him. Then on the last 2 pages of the book, it flashes forward 1 year later, where we see an arm coming out of a mirror. Then as the person comes completely out, it stands in front of a monitor saying, access to Project Olympus. Archives requested. Password, Blue Trinity. As it brings up footage of Wally in his Flash costume and footage from him, his dad, and Barry at the lab. We then see that this is Mirror Master as he looks at the monitor saying, mirror, mirror on the wall, time to make this whole world fall. So issue 2 of Absolute Flash picks up in the present, where Wally kneels next to Barry's corpse, telling himself, you killed him, Wally. What are you going to do now? There's nowhere left to hide. They'll come for you now. He's going to come after you. Dad? But that's not Dad around the cave wall. It's in fact one of Digger's boomerangs, as we see Digger outside of the cave say, we mapped the caverns. Sending to you now. Snart, or Absolute Captain Cold, then says, got it, limiting his exits. Digger, flush him out. Glider, you intercept. As we see Cold use his ice gun to seal all the exits outside the caverns. Glider then says, I'll be ready, with Trickster adding in, I don't like this. Something's not right about this whole op. After this, the rogues are able to smoke Wally out of the cavern, so to speak. But after he comes running out, he's way too fast for Glider to stop. Shocked, she's like, what the hell? Guys, Jesse's right. This kid is, well, I don't know what he is. And while he keeps running from them, he says, I've always known. Something is wrong with me, but now it feels like I'm bursting apart. It's like if I don't move, I'm going to explode into 1 million little pieces, and no one will ever be able to put me back together again. So the rogues aren't able to corner Wally, with Colt saying, okay, West, that's enough. Time to go home. But Wally just says to himself, I've ruined everything. I messed up bad this time. There is no going back. I'm all broken. As we see on the next page, Wally scream, leave me alone, with energy or lightning bursting out of his body, destroying Digger's boomerangs. The burst of energy then takes him to the past, where he sees Barry in a lab, as Barry yells out to Wally, saying, take my hand, son, hold on. Barry then tries to jump and grab Wally out of the electrical storm, but Wally just disappeared, as Barry is there left wondering what happened to Wally. Wally's dad, Rudy, then walks in asking Alan, what did you do? Barry says, Rudy, I swear, I didn't know. But Rudy just punches Barry, saying, what did you do to my boy? I told you to stay away from him, but you just had to mess with my kid, didn't you? You arrogant. But Barry points up, so Rudy looks, as we see Wally floating there in the form of energy, saying, Dad? Rudy responds, it's okay, son, it's going to be okay. As Barry gets up and grabs Wally, saying, look at me, focus on me, stay here, stay with us. But Wally says, get back, stay away from me, stay away, as Wally's brought back to the present. Back in the present, in front of the rogues, once again, Wally on his knees asks, asks, Barry? Dad? The rogues and protective force field bubbles created by Trickster just stare at Wally as Trickster says, told you guys this kid was messed up, but does anyone ever listen to me? Oh no, let's just make fun of Jesse. Should have let you all fry. But as she says that, she throws some sort of sphere towards Wally, who she encased inside one of her orbs. But Wally just breaks free and starts running again as Cold says, Glider, chase Wally. As Glider chases Wally, she's almost able to catch him and grabs him by the shirt while saying, haven't met anything yet that can outrun me. But as soon as she finishes her sentence, Wally blasts off with a boost. As we see Wally running incredibly fast, he says to himself, I'm here. I know that. I'm here in the desert and it is now. But I am also back in Barry's lab. I am with my dad. I am here, but I am also 3 years old and my dad is on leave and he took us to Wonder Island and it's the best day ever. And my mom is there too. She's still alive and we're all together. I'm all together. I'm still whole. One piece, not broken. Not here and there, and I can't stop running. No matter how much I want to, I can't stop and I'm scared. Then suddenly it happens. I'm not here. I'm not back then. I'm forward and I see what's coming. I see you tomorrow as we see the future with Wally as the Flash and everyone in the city praising him. But Wally then continues to say, no, tomorrow's two worlds. I'm a hero or am I a monster? As we see him as some sort of speed force energy monster in the second tomorrow. Ultimately, Barry trips and starts saying to himself in the desert, what's happening to me? What am I becoming? As we see Cold tell Digger, okay, I've had enough of this freak show. Let them out. Digger says, you sure you want to do this? Cold says, no, but do we have any choice? Get Grodd. As they let Grodd out of the vehicle, who we see on the last page is not a giant gorilla like we're used to, but instead a cute little monkey. And with that, we move into issue 3. Issue 3 starts off in the past yet again as Wally is next to his father and Barry in the lab with his caption saying, moments of connection. First, Dr. Barry Allen, I have just connected with Barry. I have just killed Barry. I am scared and there is only one thing I could think of to do. I run out of the lab, out of Fort Fox. I do not want to look back. I could feel something there chasing me. No, not something, someone. Barry dies in slow agonizing motion dragged behind me. Flesh peels off his bones and no matter how fast I run, he stays with me. Tethered, connected, and when Barry stops running, a voice behind him says, Wally, as we see it's Barry's corpse reaching out saying, help me. We then see Wally run into a bar and saying, I can't do this anymore. I don't even know who I am, where I am. I don't know what I am. I just need to slow it all down. Need to stop as he falls asleep in the barn. Elsewhere, we see Cold on the phone talking to Colonel West, aka Rudy, Wally's father, saying, I know, Colonel, but the target exhibited extreme side effects from the accident. It was pretty wild, sir. Colonel West responds, that target is my 15-year-old son, Captain. I don't want excuses. I want my boy back, alive. As Elenore Thawne, who's standing next to Colonel West, says, if you and your team can't even do that, then what the hell have we been doing up here in the mountains all this time? Cold says, I understand. We have deployed the monkey. As we see both Colonel West and Elenore Thawne are able to look through Grodd's eyes via a monitor in their lab, as we see Grodd just arrived at the barn where Wally's at. Grodd then makes his way into the barn, finding Wally, and startles him awake as Wally says, whoa, I saw you at Fort Fox. You were in the lab. Grodd then puts his finger out ET style, and so does Wally, touching the tip of his finger with his, as we see Grodd is able to look inside of Wally's thoughts. As Grodd is able to see all the recent trauma he's been through with his dad, with Barry, in the incident at the lab, and with his mom's death when he was younger. And Wally could also see what Grodd went through with him being taken away from his mom as they killed his mother and experimented on his brain at Fort Fox. Essentially, their minds are now linked to one another, and after they look at each other's thoughts, they're now able to communicate with each other telepathically via Grodd's powers. Grodd even says, Wally, Grodd same. Then Wally tells him, I'm scared, Grodd. I don't know what to do. And Grodd says, Wally, not scared. Wally, Grodd same. But they then hear a humming sound and Wally asks, do you know what that is? Wally then opens the barn door saying, wait, I see something. What is that? As he says, oh crap, realizing it's one of Digger's boomerangs. It then flies into the barn and explodes as both Wally and Grodd go flying from the explosion. Wally then tells Grodd they're coming as electricity and the speed force starts circling around him again, with him holding his head saying, I have to run. I have to go. I messed everything up. Barry, the things I saw. Oh, Grodd, the things I did. But Grodd just puts his finger to Wally's head saying, Wally no scared. Wally and Grodd and Wally. As Grodd uses his telepathic powers to take down Golden Glider, as Cold says, the monkey's gone rogue. Grodd then uses his powers to take down Trickster, as Digger says, don't worry, stupid ape can't touch me or Boomer. You sure we gotta take this kid in alive? Cause he's really starting to piss me off. As Digger flies off with his boomerangs. As Wally's running, he says, I can't run, can I? Not anymore. So I stopped for once. I face it head on, as he punches Digger right in the face saying, he doesn't stand stand a chance. Grodd then comes up to Wally saying, Wally, go. Wally says, what? No. Together. We go together. So Grodd gets on his back and smiles saying, Wally and Grodd. Wally then runs back to the cavern where Barry's body is and says to himself, any life I knew was gone. And now I know I really can't go back. This is my life now. I can't outrun it. I just need to be here now. And realizing that, a calm comes over me as I feel something I haven't in a long time. I start to feel free. As he takes Barry's suit, putting it on, daunting what would become his Flash suit for the very first time, as he runs off with Grodd on his back. And now we move into issue 4. Issue 4 starts off with Wally watching his father stare at his mother's grave during her funeral, except the grave is empty. As Wally tells himself, I see the hole in the ground where my mother has gone, where she will stay forever. Just stay calm. Stay in the moment. Then on the next page, we see Wally standing in front of his mother's empty grave with his father and everyone at the funeral now gone. As he tells himself, but I need to look. I need to see, even though I already know what is down there. Down there with Mom, down in the darkness. But when Wally looks down, he sees it's Barry's ghost saying, Wally, help me. Wally says, Barry? As Barry gets closer saying, help me. But on the next page, we see it's all a nightmare. As Wally wakes up at a park with Grodd asking, Wally okay? He responds, I'm okay. I just had a really bad dream. It felt so real. Grodd then comforts Wally by grabbing his head and putting his forehead on his saying, Wally okay. Wally and Grodd okay. I love that in this universe, Wally West Flash and Grodd are friends and Grodd has become like Wally's pet of sorts. Anyway, as they walk out of the park, Grodd tells Wally, Grodd hate hiding. Grodd free now. But Wally tells him, sorry, we talked about this. We can't afford any extra attention. I promise we'll find a place soon where you don't have to hide so much. After this, we see Wally looking for food as he's starving, and he eventually finds a place that gives food out to the less fortunate. They give food out every Thursday and Saturday. But while he's standing in line, a man comes up and asks how old Wally is. Wally's like, what is it to you? The man tells him, easy kid, just letting you know, if you're under 18, we run a youth mission just a block away. You don't have to wait in line here. We have beds and 3 meals a day there. You could stay up to a week at a time. As a girl walks by saying, mission's legit, as long as you could stand all of Ralph's bad dad jokes. Ralph says, thanks for the ringing endorsement, Linda, as Ralph gives Wally a card in case he's interested. Back in the desert, we see the rogues stare at a cyclone of energy. As Colonel West approaches, Digger says, one thing's for sure, as messed up as it is, the energy signature matches what that kid was giving off before he and Grodd bolted. Colonel West asks, what are you saying, Harkness? But Trickster answers saying, it's a doorway. I could almost see through it, but as Jesse or Trickster goes to touch it, it disperses in a blast of energy. Colonel West says, enough, we're done here. I want you fully reloaded and ready to roll out. Understood? Colt says, sir, shouldn't we stay here and help them figure out what that was? The Colonel tells them, you guys couldn't contain a 15-year-old kid. You've been trained to face something a lot worse than that, and you choked. Not to mention, you lost the ape. So how about we let the eggheads back at Fort Fox figure this out, and you worry about how you're going to get my son back in one piece. Colton asks, where are we going, sir? He says, respond back to Fort Fox. I need to find out what the hell Barry Allen was doing in that lab of his. I need to find out what happened to my boy. We're then taken back to Wally, who we see has taken Ralph up on his offer and has come to stay at the youth mission. As Wally is eating some food in the cafeteria, Linda sits down next to him. She then asks what's his name and says, so you haven't been in Iron Heights long. He responds, what makes you think I'm not from around here? She says, I could tell. You still look too hopeful. So where do you come from? He tells her, I guess I'm not really from around here. Moved around a lot. My dad is, well, he's in the military. She asks, is that what you're running from? He tells her, yeah, that and other stuff. She says, we're all running from something. But for what it's worth, this place is okay. I mean, Ralph and Sue are actually pretty cool. Wally then asks, so where are you running from, Linda? She just stares at him before getting up, and he says, sorry, I didn't mean to. She tells him, it's cool. Look, you could finish my meal if you want. I saw you scarf yours down in like 3 seconds. He says, thanks, as she walks away saying, see you around, Wallace. After this, we see Wally take his backpack back to his room he's staying in, as Ralph comes in to give him a toothbrush and toothpaste, telling him, we only have 3 rules here. No drugs, no fights, and we ask everyone to take a shift helping with the cleaning and cooking. You could talk to my better half, Sue, about schedule in the morning. Any of that going to be a problem? Wally says, no, sir. Once Ralph leaves, Wally starts talking to Grodd, who's hiding in his backpack, saying, what do you think? Maybe we could stay for a day or 2. I think we're safe here. Grodd, you asleep? But when he opens the bag, he sees that Grodd is gone, so he runs to the window to see Grodd running away. We're then taken back to Colonel West, who's in Barry's old lab, which is destroyed, and as he's looking around, Thawne comes in asking, what are you doing here? He replies, the question is, what was Barry Allen doing here? What was the focus of his work? Thawne responds, we have a contract with the Lazarus Corps. Dr. Allen was the point man on our augmented weapons program, West. You know that. West replies, I know know what the mission brief said, Elenore, but what was he really doing? All this tech you two have developed here, the weapons the rogues use, where is it coming from? She replies, Colonel, I do believe your mission is to provide security for our work, not to question it. He then tells her, don't give me that crap, Elenore, we are way past that. She then tells him Barry was exploring a tangent of work that lay somewhat outside our original mission statement. He says, yes, are you saying you don't know what he was doing here? That you don't know what's happened to Wally? Elenore responds, you saw what your son did in the desert. All the weaponry we've developed here for your team didn't stand a chance against Wally. He tells her, he's a 15-year-old boy, not one of your test subjects. She replies, wrong. He was a 15-year-old boy. Now he is a miracle. The accident killed Barry Allen, but his death doesn't need to be for nothing. Your son may be the greatest success we've had. West says, he is not your weapon. I need to get him back here safely and undo whatever it is Allen did to him. Elenore says, we know where he is. We're tracking Grodd. This obviously makes West mad, and he's like, you knew the whole time and you didn't tell me? Elenore says, you don't understand the full extent of what we're dealing with here, West. He asks, what do you mean? She says, your son was not the only thing that escaped that night of the accident. Some of your more volatile experiments are still in the wild, as we see broken containments that once contained Project Wizard and Project Heatwave. She then says, and the ape is leading your son right to them, as we see Wally chasing Grodd into the sewer, where he leads Wally to the absolute version of Heatwave, who looks like a giant lava monster. And with that, the issue ends. So now we gotta jump right into issue 5. Issue 5 starts off with Wally staring down this terrifying looking Heatwave as he says to himself, I can't move. This is how I die, isn't it? Too scared to move. I always knew I would die young. Even when I was really little, I knew. And my mom used to tell me not to worry, that I wouldn't die for a long, long time. But she said the same thing about herself too, but this is different. This is a monster, and it's going to kill me if I don't move. But then I see his eyes. I feel like somehow I know him, and that's when it hits me. What if I'm the monster? As while he releases energy that hurts Heatwave, he literally says, hurt. Heatwave then releases some lava of his own on Wally and Grodd, but with his speed, the two are able to dodge. Wally then looks at his hand saying, not again. It's just like in the desert, just like with Barry. I don't know why this thing is making me come apart, and I'm not letting that happen ever again. As Heatwave starts to come up through the sewer via a manhole cover in front of the youth mission. Ralph then sees Heatwave and tells everyone to run. We're then taken back to the rogues as Elenore comes in and tells them, I need you ready to deploy within the hour, and there's one thing you four should know. We believe Grodd has led the boy to one of your former comrades, Mick Rory. Cold says, Rory? I thought you said he didn't survive the test. Elenore replies, yeah, well. Cold then gets in her face saying, what else have you lied to us about, Thawne? She says, you were told what you needed to hear, Captain Snart, but things are evolving quickly, and I'm prepared to let you four in on more of Project Olympus's true goals. First, we need Wally. We're then taken back to Heatwave, who's loose on the city streets, as we see Wally still in the sewer trying to compose himself, as Grodd yet again goes to comfort him saying, it's okay to be scared, but people scared of heat. We need Wally. Wally asks, but what can I do against that? Grodd says, not I, we, Wally and Grodd. So Wally opens his backpack and pulls out the suit he took from Barry, putting it on saying, well, what could go wrong? He then goes to street level and shoulder tackles Heatwave away from Ralph. He then tries to stop Heatwave full on, but it's not working. And he says, how do I stop this thing, Grodd? Grodd replies, not stop, help. Wally asks, what do you mean? Grodd says, heat. Wally, take heat. With Wally realizing that Heatwave is in pain from the extreme heat, and Grodd is being like, use your powers to take it away, bro. So Wally tries to do just that as he's taken to what seems like space or some sort of void. A voice then says, Wally. As Wally responds, who is that? Who's there? A giant hand then starts coming out of nowhere saying, Wally. As Wally turns around saying, no, stop. But then we're brought back down to the scene in front of the youth center, as we see Ralph trying to help Wally up, asking if he's okay. Wally asks, where was I? As Grodd says, Wally, help, pointing to a now naked Heatwave, as Wally was indeed able to take the heat or lava of Heatwave from him, which was causing him pain. Wally tells Ralph, I just need a minute. Ralph says, look kid, I don't even know what that was. I just saw you, but you need some help. Let me, while he says, no, get away from me. Linda then comes up to Wally saying, what was that? He tells her, I don't know. I don't know what's happening to me. Linda then grabs his hand saying, let us help. But as she says that, a helicopter starts flying overhead, so Wally and Grodd run off. Elsewhere, we see Elenore tell the rogues, he's on the move again. You need to go now. We need the boy back unharmed. That is of vital importance. I'd prefer Grodd in one piece too, but he is expendable if necessary. Cold asks, and Mick Rory? Elenore says, Rory is to be contained. Colonel West will take point on that. Wait, where is Colonel West? As we see West has made his way into some unit he's not supposed to be in, as he says, "Dear God," with us seeing some sort of aliens in test tubes, and with that, the issue ends. So now we move on to the 6th issue. All right, issue 6 is one of my favorite issues of the series because it tells us how Colonel West formed the Absolute Rogues. It's essentially an origin issue of the Rogues for the Absolute Universe. And the first person we see Colonel West recruit is Digger, aka Captain Boomerang. We see him in some bar in Higgins, Oklahoma 6 months ago where he's hitting on a girl. But her brother, who is also at the bar, doesn't like this so much and grabs Digger by the collar saying, "Hey, that's my sister." Digger then says, "I could see that she got all the looks in the family. Why don't you head back to your trailer while I show your sister some real culture, yeah?" At which point the brother just tosses Digger out of the bar. As Digger's on the ground lighting a cigarette, Colonel West walks up as Digger says, "Colonel West, what the hell are you doing here, man?" He responds, "Do you know how long it took me to track you down, Digger?" He replies, "Yeah, well, maybe you should have taken that as a hint, Colonel." West says, "Look, I know there's nothing I could say that will make how things ended in Syria any easier to live with, Digger, but I don't come empty-handed. What if I told you I could wipe your record clean and give you a fresh start?" Digger replies, "I'd say there's a catch, because I know there's one. There always is." Colonel West says, "Like always, I can't guarantee you'll make it out of this one alive, Captain, but what I can promise you is that if you do, you'll get to fly some of the newest and meanest birds you've ever seen." Digger then asks, "Do I get to blow stuff up?" West tells him, "Chances are good," at which point Digger says he's in. We're then taken back to the hotel room West is staying at as we see him call Wally, saying, "Hey Wally, it's Dad again. Just thought maybe I'd catch you before you went to bed. I'm in Oklahoma, but heading to Kansas tomorrow. I sent you a few texts yesterday. Can you at least respond to those so I know you're doing okay? I hate how I left things. I just want you to know that well, okay, talk soon." West then stares at an old picture of his wife holding a younger Wally West and smiles before putting it next to his bed and turning the light off to go to sleep. The next morning, we're taken to Cottonwood Falls, Kansas, where we see Snart picking up his drunk sister Lisa, who we see is missing both of her legs. As he's carrying her back to her wheelchair, she says, "What are you doing?" He tells her, "What does it look like? You passed out again. Must have tried to get out of the chair." She says, "Just leave me. I don't want to be in this thing." He tells her, "That's great, Lisa, but you think I'm just gonna leave you to drag yourself around? How many pills did you take last night?" She says, "Does it matter?" He says, "Yes, it matters. I'm not letting you do this to yourself." But then someone starts knocking at the door, and when he goes to check, we see it's Colonel West, who says, "Good morning, Captain. Am I interrupting?" The two then go out and have a beer on Snart's pickup truck. Snart ultimately says, "You're not here to tell me about all the great programs you offer the wounded vets, are you? Because the crap we pulled in Syria pretty much took us off the Army's Christmas list." West says, "You and your team are lucky to not be in jail, Leonard." He replies, "Lucky? Yeah, right. Tell that to my sister, who obviously lost her legs during whatever mission they're referring to." West says, "Truth is, I'm actually here with an offer. One that could make things right for you and let you get your sister some help she needs." Leonard says, "My sister is beyond any help the government could offer us at this point, Rudy." West responds, "I wouldn't be so sure about that, Captain." We're then taken to later that night with West back in the hotel room where he's calling Wally again, but he's still not answering. He then hears a knock on his door and we see it's Leonard, who says, "You gotta come see this, Colonel." And when they go outside, Digger, Lisa, and Leonard are all like, "Jesse's here," who is also part of the mission they're all referring to in Syria. Wes asks, "How did you?" She tells them, "Think I'm stupid, Colonel? I knew it was a matter of time until they came for us after what we did. Kept trackers on everyone so I could stay a step or two ahead." Lisa was like, "You put a tracker on me?" Jesse replies, "Not you, your brother. I knew you wouldn't be able to get far without him, Lisa." Taking a dig at her because she has no legs, at which point Lisa jumps on Jesse. Colonel then says, "Okay, everybody, stand down. Corporal Jesse, we were coming to see you next in New Mexico." She replies, "You mean coming to drag me to some government black site prison along with the rest of these idiots?" Leonard says, "Actually, the Colonel has a new mission for us." Jesse says, "Mission? What kind of mission would the Army offer a unit of court-martialed disgraced soldiers who went rogue and took a bribe from a foreign government?" Telling us exactly why they're called the Rogues, because they quite literally went rogue. But also tells us why they're all in hiding and or paranoid, because they think they're gonna get locked away in some off-site prison. The short of it is, now that the band's back together, so to speak, Colonel West takes them all to Fort Fox, Colorado, where they're introduced to Barry Allen and Elenore Thawne. While in there, they see a bunch of crazy stuff, like a gorilla being held behind glass and a bunch of science experiments, as Barry explains to them that Project Olympus is using cutting-edge advancements in physics and engineering to push the very limits of human potential. Leonard says, "So what, super weapons?" Barry tells them, "That's one byproduct, yes. We aren't just talking about making weapons. We're working on advancements that will untether humankind. Instantaneous travel across incredible distances, as we see a man who will become known as a Mirror Master." Barry then says, "Being able to communicate with anyone anywhere without technology, simply by willing it," as we see them working on telepathy with Grodd. Grodd. Barry goes on to say being able to detect and cure any disease or defect on a molecular level. Leonard then says, yeah, that's all great and everything, Doc, but let's cut the crap. It's mostly about weapons, right? I mean, if the government's funding all this, they want weapons. Digger says, the captain's right. Why else would you bring us here? Elenore then jumps in saying, we're not here to make weapons for you, Captain Snart. We're here to make you into the weapons. As they open two massive doors that reveal all sorts of tech they've been working on. The tech they would don to become the Absolute Rogues. Barry right away shows Lisa mechanical legs they're going to give her so she could walk again, saying, we took the liberty of fitting them for you already, Sergeant. Jessie then looks at her helmet that would become her trickster helmet while asking, Barry, where the hell did this come from? Barry then thinks to himself as we get a flashback from the Mojave Desert in 1944 as we see a soldier named Garrick fall into some sort of energy experiment, telling us that that's where all this stuff came from the creation of the first Flash. As we're brought back to the present, Barry tells Jessie, that's classified. Colonel West says, look, Alan, if you want my people to volunteer, Alan then interrupts saying, your people have no choice, Colonel West, which is exactly why we chose them. And you, sign the waivers, allow us to make you into gods. Elenore then says, or go to prison for the rest of your lives as the traitors you are. Digger then says, so where do we sign? We're then taken to present day in the Fort Fox bunker, essentially the end of where we left off last issue, where Colonel West is like, what the hell have I done, Rudy? He then picks up his phone and calls Wally, saying, I know you're probably not going to hear this. I think I'm in trouble, and no matter what happens next, I need you to know what happened to your mother, it was not your fault. Not in any way. She loved you so much. So do I. West then hears Wally's voice say, Dad? And he says, Wally. Wally says, Dad, is that really you? West says, yes, I'm here, son. Wally replies, Dad, I'm scared. Something's happened to me, and West says, it's okay, Wally. Just tell me where you are, and I swear I'll get you. I'll find a way. But before he could finish talking to his son, a bag is thrown over his head as he's restrained, and we see it's Elenore and her men as she uses her cane to break West's phone. And just like that, issue 6 comes to an end. There we have it, guys. The first story arc for Absolute Flash. Much like all of the Absolute titles, this is another epic series. At this point, it seems like the Absolute Universe can do no wrong, as they're just nailing all these alternate takes of characters like the Flash, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and so on. I really like how this one is focusing on Wally West, as Wally is the Flash of the 90s, and I know a lot of you grew up with that version of the Flash just like me. I'm very curious to see what other speedsters are going to get introduced into this Absolute Universe. We already got a glimpse of Jay Garrick and Barry Allen, but are they going to be shown to have the actual Speed Force? Only time will tell. For those of you who've already read issues 7, 8, and 9, you might already have answers to those questions. But don't worry, we'll cover those issues in a future video. As for now, let us know your thoughts on the first 6 issues of Absolute Flash down in the comment section, and we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.